Your soulmate is about to reveal the truth they've hidden for too long. Something has shifted, and if your heart has been unusually quiet today, there may be a reason you cannot explain yet. Before this moment arrived, countless ordinary seconds passed without asking anything from you, but this one feels different. It feels as though life gently paused, waiting for you to notice what has been standing silently at the edge of your thoughts. Stay with this message, because what has remained hidden for so long is beginning to lose its strength. The truth does not always arrive with loud voices or dramatic moments. Sometimes it comes as a soft feeling that settles inside your chest before your mind can understand it. Today may be one of those moments. Your soulmate has carried words they never believed they would have the courage to speak. They rehearsed conversations that never happened. They imagined your face, your reaction, the silence that might follow, and every possibility frightened them enough to remain quiet. Yet silence has its own weight. Day after day, it became heavier than the truth itself. There comes a point when protecting the past becomes more painful than risking the future. That point is closer than either of you realizes. Listen carefully. Very few people notice the quiet ways life prepares two hearts before they finally meet in honesty. It is not always through grand signs. Sometimes it happens when an old song suddenly means something different. Sometimes it is the unexpected calm that replaces months of confusion. Sometimes it is the strange feeling that someone is thinking about you at the exact moment you pause and wonder about them. These moments do not prove destiny by themselves, but they remind us that meaningful connections often grow quietly before they become visible. Imagine a quiet evening. Outside, the sky slowly trades daylight for deep blue. The last warmth of the sun lingers on the horizon while a gentle breeze moves through empty streets. A cup of coffee sits untouched, growing colder with every passing minute because someone is lost inside memories they spent months trying to forget. Your soulmate has known evenings like this. They have replayed moments that seemed ordinary when they happened but now feel precious because distance has changed their meaning. They have discovered that the smallest memories often become the hardest ones to escape. What they hid was never simply a feeling. It was fear. Fear that they had arrived too late. Fear that life had already carried you somewhere they could no longer reach. Fear that honesty might cost them the possibility of even remaining in your life. Many people believe love disappears when it is left unspoken. The truth is often more complicated. Sometimes love waits quietly behind hesitation, hoping courage will arrive before time runs out. Don't skip this part, because this realization changes everything. While you were wondering why certain answers never came, your soulmate was asking different questions entirely. They wondered whether they deserved another chance to be understood. They questioned every mistake with painful honesty. They revisited conversations, searching for the exact sentence where everything seemed to change. Growth rarely begins with certainty. It begins when someone finally accepts responsibility for the choices they can no longer change. There is another truth hidden beneath all of this. During the time you believed nothing was happening, both of you were changing in ways neither could see. Pain has a quiet way of teaching patience. Loneliness sometimes teaches gratitude. Distance often reveals which connections continue living inside the heart even after daily routines disappear. These lessons cannot be rushed. They unfold slowly, like morning light entering a room one corner at a time. Perhaps you have noticed something changing inside yourself as well. You no longer chase every answer with the same urgency. You have started protecting your peace instead of sacrificing it for certainty. You have learned that your worth does not depend on another person's readiness. That quiet confidence is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a healthier one. Genuine love is not built by abandoning yourself. It grows strongest when two people meet as complete individuals, each willing to offer honesty instead of perfection. Something unexpected happened while your soulmate was trying to hide the truth. The very silence they believed would protect both of you slowly became impossible to carry. Every beautiful sunrise reminded them that another day had passed without saying what mattered. Every quiet night left room for thoughts they could no longer distract themselves from. They began to understand that courage is rarely the absence of fear. Courage is choosing honesty even when fear remains. If the moment arrives when those hidden words are finally spoken, remember this. You do not have to answer immediately. You do not have to ignore your own healing simply because someone else found their voice. Listen with compassion, but also with wisdom. The healthiest love is never rushed. It creates space for trust to return naturally, one honest conversation at a time. And maybe that is the deepest truth waiting for you today. Whether this conversation happens tomorrow, weeks from now, or only inside your own heart through acceptance, you are no longer standing in the same emotional place where this journey began. You have become someone who understands that love without honesty cannot truly grow, and honesty without kindness cannot truly heal. When both finally meet, even the longest silence begins to lose its power. This is only the beginning of the story, because the greatest revelation is not simply what your soulmate has hidden for too long. It is the person you have quietly become while waiting for the truth to find its way into the light. The days that followed did not arrive with dramatic signs. Instead, they carried a quieter kind of change, one that could easily be missed unless you had learned to pay attention to the smallest moments. A familiar street suddenly felt different. The evening breeze seemed softer than usual. You caught yourself smiling at a memory that once brought only sadness. These changes were not accidents. They were reminders that healing often begins long before we recognize its presence. Your soulmate was experiencing something remarkably similar. The life they had carefully built around distractions was beginning to crack, not because everything was falling apart, but because the truth was asking to be seen. They discovered that no amount of busy schedules, endless conversations, or constant movement could silence the feeling that one chapter of their heart had never truly ended. They realized they had been protecting themselves from vulnerability while quietly hoping that somehow, someday, honesty would still have a place between you. Stay with this message, because this is where everything starts to become clearer. There is a common misunderstanding that people hide the truth because they do not care enough. More often, they hide it because they care so deeply that they fear losing what little connection remains. Fear convinces the heart that silence is safer than rejection. Yet every silent day slowly teaches the opposite lesson. What remains unspoken eventually becomes heavier than the risk of speaking it aloud. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the window, your soulmate found themselves staring into the darkness outside. The room was quiet except for the steady rhythm of falling water. Their phone rested nearby. More than once they reached toward it, only to stop before sending the message they had imagined countless times. It was not the lack of words that held them back. The words had always existed. They simply wondered whether they still deserved to be heard. At that very moment, your own life continued in ways that seemed ordinary. Perhaps you were making dinner, reading a book, finishing work, or simply sitting with your thoughts. Yet beneath those ordinary moments, something extraordinary had changed inside you. You were no longer searching for someone else to complete your happiness. Instead, you had begun creating a peaceful life that belonged to you. That quiet confidence became something your soulmate could never have predicted. The person they remembered had grown stronger, gentler, and far more certain of their own worth. Listen carefully. This transformation matters more than you realize. Relationships built from fear often struggle to survive. Relationships built after two people have learned self-respect carry a different kind of strength. They are less interested in proving love and more interested in practicing it through patience, honesty, kindness, and consistency. As memories continued returning, your soulmate stopped asking, "Why did this happen?" They began asking a better question, "What have I learned because it happened?" That single change opened a door that had remained locked for far too long. Instead of replaying old mistakes with regret alone, they started understanding the person they had been back then. They saw the insecurity that had shaped their decisions. They recognized the moments when fear spoke louder than love. Most importantly, they accepted that growth requires compassion toward the version of ourselves that did not yet know better. There is another realization waiting here for you as well. Sometimes the greatest gift another person can offer is not immediate certainty but the opportunity to discover your own resilience. During the months or years when answers seemed absent, you quietly became someone capable of standing on your own. You found strength in peaceful mornings, hope in unexpected friendships, and comfort in your own reflection. None of that growth was wasted. It prepared your heart to choose love freely rather than desperately. Something unexpected happened after that. Your soulmate began noticing reminders of you in places where they had never looked before. A familiar laugh across a crowded cafe. A favorite song playing unexpectedly in a grocery store. A sunrise painted in colors that reminded them of conversations they once believed they would always have. These moments did not erase the past, but they gently reminded them that meaningful connections leave lasting impressions because they shape who we become. Don't rush past this next thought. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It is not pretending nothing happened. It is not excusing painful choices. Forgiveness is the quiet decision to stop allowing yesterday to control tomorrow. Whether that forgiveness is offered to another person or to yourself, it creates room for peace to enter where resentment once lived. Peace does not erase memory. It changes the way memory feels. Imagine another evening, this time beneath a sky filled with stars. The air is calm, the streets are nearly empty, and somewhere in the distance a single light remains glowing in a quiet home. Both of you are looking toward different horizons, unaware that your thoughts have become surprisingly similar. Neither of you wishes to return to the past exactly as it was. Instead, Both hearts are beginning to hope for something healthier, something built on truth rather than assumptions, on listening rather than guessing, and on trust rather than fear. This is why patience matters. Genuine emotional honesty cannot be forced into existence. Like sunrise, it arrives gradually. The darkness does not disappear all at once. It slowly gives way to light until suddenly the world looks different, even though the change has been happening all along. Human hearts often heal in the same quiet way. As your soulmate moved closer to the truth they had hidden for so long, they discovered that the greatest obstacle had never been your reaction. It had been their own belief that they were no longer worthy of being understood. Healing began the moment they questioned that belief instead of accepting it as fact. Every honest step forward became a small promise that fear would no longer make every important decision. And perhaps this is the lesson both of you were always meant to find. Love becomes strongest when it grows alongside honesty, patience, and self-respect. Whether your paths meet again through conversation, through understanding, or simply through the quiet gratitude that comes from knowing someone changed your life, the truth has already started doing its work. It has softened old fears, opened closed hearts, and reminded both of you that the most meaningful connections are never defined by how perfectly they begin, but by how sincerely they grow. When courage finally replaces silence, morning arrived without asking either of you if you were ready for what the day might reveal. Sunlight slipped quietly through the curtains, filling the room with a warmth that felt strangely unfamiliar, as though the world had decided to begin again without announcing it. You opened your eyes carrying the same questions you had carried for so long, yet something inside you felt lighter. The answers had not arrived overnight, but your heart no longer feared waiting for them. There is a quiet strength that appears when a person stops chasing certainty and begins trusting their own peace. Your soulmate was discovering that same strength from a different place. They had spent so much time believing the truth would only create distance that they never imagined honesty could also become the first step toward healing. Every day they delayed speaking became another reminder that silence was no longer protecting anyone. It was only postponing the possibility of understanding. Listen carefully, because this realization changes more than the relationship between two people. It changes the relationship each person has with themselves. The heart becomes calmer when it no longer carries the burden of pretending. Your soulmate slowly realized they were exhausted, not because life had become difficult, but because hiding genuine emotions required more energy than simply admitting them. That understanding did not arrive dramatically. It appeared during ordinary moments. While watching strangers laugh together in a quiet park. While hearing an old melody that unexpectedly reopened forgotten memories. While sitting alone with nothing but the sound of slow breathing filling the room. Those ordinary moments became mirrors, reflecting truths that had waited patiently to be acknowledged. At the same time, your own journey continued leading you toward a different kind of freedom. You noticed yourself appreciating simple things that once passed unnoticed. The warmth of sunlight resting on your hands. The comfort of reading without distraction. The peaceful silence that follows rain. These moments reminded you that happiness is rarely found through constant searching. More often, it quietly grows wherever gratitude is allowed to stay. Stay with this message because another truth is beginning to unfold. Your soulmate finally stopped asking whether the past could be erased. Instead, they began wondering whether the future could be built differently. That single change in perspective transformed everything. Regret no longer became a prison. It became a teacher. Every mistake pointed toward greater awareness instead of endless self-punishment. They understood that maturity is not measured by never making mistakes. It is measured by the willingness to learn from them with honesty and humility. Somewhere between those reflections, another memory surfaced. It was not an extraordinary moment. It was something beautifully ordinary. A conversation interrupted by laughter. A quiet walk where no one felt the need to speak constantly. The comfort of simply existing beside someone who made the world feel less heavy. Those memories carried no dramatic promises. They carried something even more valuable. They reminded your soulmate what emotional safety had once felt like. That memory stayed with them long after the day had ended. It followed them into quiet evenings and peaceful mornings until they finally accepted that some connections leave permanent marks on the heart because they reveal parts of ourselves we never knew existed. Don't rush through this next thought. Healing does not always mean returning to someone. Sometimes it means returning to yourself with greater kindness than ever before. Whether two paths meet again or continue separately, the greatest victory is becoming someone who no longer abandons their own peace for fear of being alone. You had already begun learning this lesson, even during moments when you believed nothing meaningful was happening. Every disappointment quietly strengthened your ability to choose relationships built on honesty rather than uncertainty. Every lonely evening taught you that your value never depended upon another person's readiness to recognize it. That wisdom became part of who you are. Your soulmate, without realizing it, had been moving toward the same understanding. One evening they stood beneath an open sky filled with stars that seemed brighter than usual. The air was cool, the streets almost silent, and for the first time in a long while they allowed themselves to imagine a future without hiding behind fear. They imagined speaking honestly, not to control the outcome, but because truth deserved to exist regardless of what happened afterward. That thought brought an unexpected sense of peace. Courage, they discovered, is not demanding a certain ending. Courage is allowing authenticity to replace fear even when the future remains unknown. This is where everything begins making sense. Throughout this journey, neither of you was simply waiting for the other. Both hearts were quietly becoming capable of offering healthier love than either could have given before. Growth had been happening in separate places, through separate experiences, yet it was leading toward the same destination. A place where communication mattered more than assumptions. Where patience mattered more than urgency. Where understanding replaced pride. Whether life eventually brings your paths together through a conversation, a chance meeting, or an unexpected message, one truth remains unchanged. The most meaningful relationships are not sustained by perfect timing alone. They are sustained by people who become willing to speak honestly, listen deeply, forgive wisely, and protect the peace they have worked so hard to build. As the evening fades into another quiet night, allow yourself to remember this. You are no longer the person who first began this emotional journey. You have learned to trust your own heart without allowing fear to guide every decision. Your soulmate has begun learning the same lesson from the other side of silence. And somewhere beyond everything either of you can currently see, the truth that remained hidden for so long is no longer asking whether it should be spoken. It is simply waiting for the moment when two hearts are finally ready to receive it with honesty, compassion, and the quiet confidence that only genuine healing can create. The quietest changes are often the ones that shape an entire future. They do not announce themselves with dramatic moments or impossible signs. Instead, they arrive in the way you breathe a little easier, the way an old memory no longer hurts quite the same, or the way your heart begins to believe that peace is possible again. As another chapter of your journey unfolds, you may notice that you are no longer asking why everything happened exactly as it did. Instead, you are beginning to ask what every experience has gently taught you. That question changes everything because it turns pain into wisdom instead of allowing it to become a permanent home. Your soulmate has reached a similar place, though their path has looked very different. They have spent countless quiet evenings reflecting on choices they once defended without question. Looking back now, they see details they could never recognize before. They remember moments when they chose silence instead of honesty, hesitation instead of trust, and fear instead of vulnerability. None of those memories can be rewritten, yet each one has become a lesson guiding them toward a different future. Listen carefully because this realization matters. Growth is rarely about becoming someone completely new. More often, it is about uncovering the person you were always capable of becoming once fear stopped making every decision. Your soulmate has slowly begun understanding this truth. They no longer wish to hide behind excuses or convince themselves that time alone will solve everything. Time can soften pain, but only honesty creates genuine healing. There were mornings when they woke before sunrise, unable to fall back asleep because their thoughts refused to remain silent. The world outside was still wrapped in darkness while birds prepared to welcome another day. In those peaceful hours, they realized how often they had mistaken emotional distance for emotional safety. They believed avoiding difficult conversations would protect both of you. Instead, those conversations simply waited patiently until they became impossible to ignore. At the same time, your own life continued moving forward with quiet determination. You discovered new routines, found comfort in simple moments, and learned that your happiness did not need constant confirmation from anyone else. There were afternoons when sunlight streamed through the windows, filling your room with warmth as you smiled without even realizing it. Those smiles mattered because they were no longer dependent upon circumstances beyond your control. They belonged entirely to you. Stay with this message because another truth is beginning to appear. Real love does not ask you to lose yourself while waiting for another person to find themselves. Healthy love grows where self-respect already exists. It is built by two people who have learned that kindness is stronger than pride, patience is wiser than pressure, and honesty creates bridges where silence once built walls. Your soulmate has finally started seeing love through that perspective. They no longer dream about returning to the past exactly as it was. They dream about creating something gentler, wiser, and more authentic if life ever offers another opportunity. One quiet afternoon, while watching leaves move gently with the wind, they found themselves thinking about how nature never rushes its seasons. Spring does not force winter to disappear overnight. Sunrise never hurries darkness away. Everything changes at its own pace, yet the transformation always comes. That simple observation settled deeply within their heart. Healing follows the same rhythm. It cannot be forced, but it can be trusted. The more they accepted this, the less afraid they became of telling the truth they had hidden for so long. Don't miss this part because it speaks directly to your own journey as well. You have already survived the uncertainty that once felt unbearable. You have learned how to comfort yourself during lonely nights, how to keep moving forward even when answers seem distant, and how to choose hope without ignoring reality. Those quiet victories deserve recognition. They are proof that your heart has become stronger, not harder. Strength built through compassion lasts far longer than strength built through emotional walls. As evening arrives once again, imagine the sky slowly filling with soft colors while the first stars begin to appear. Somewhere beneath that same sky, your soulmate pauses during an ordinary moment and realizes that the greatest obstacle has never been distance, timing, or circumstance. It has been the fear of being completely seen. Yet something inside them has changed. They no longer wish to be understood through assumptions or half-finished conversations. They want the truth to stand on its own, free from fear and free from the weight of everything left unsaid. That desire does not come from desperation. It comes from emotional maturity. It comes from understanding that authentic connection is impossible without authentic communication. This is where everything slowly begins to come together. Both of you have spent time becoming people who value peace more than uncertainty and honesty more than appearances. Whether your paths cross again through a message, a conversation, or an unexpected meeting, you will not be standing there as the same people you once were. You will carry greater patience, deeper understanding, and a clearer sense of what truly matters. Perhaps that is the quiet miracle hidden inside every difficult season. It teaches us that love is not only about finding the right person. It is also about becoming the kind of person who can receive and give love with openness, courage, and grace. As another night settles gently across the world, remember this one simple truth. The words your soulmate has hidden for so long are only part of the story. The greater transformation has already taken place inside both of your hearts. Whatever tomorrow brings, you now possess something fear can never take away again, the quiet confidence that honesty, healing, and hope will always lead you closer to the life and the love that truly belong to you. Every meaningful journey reaches a moment when the questions that once felt impossible begin to lose their power. Not because every mystery has been solved, but because the heart has finally learned that peace does not depend on knowing every answer. It depends on trusting that whatever belongs in your life will never require you to abandon yourself to receive it. As this story comes to its final chapter, allow yourself to notice how much has already changed within you. The person who began this journey was searching for certainty, hoping that one conversation or one revelation would suddenly make everything clear. The person reading these words now understands something far more valuable. True clarity begins within. It grows quietly each time you choose honesty over fear, patience over desperation, and hope over resentment. Your soulmate has been walking through a transformation of their own. They no longer carry the truth as something to hide. Instead, they carry it as something they are finally ready to honor. They have discovered that love cannot flourish where silence becomes permanent, and that vulnerability, though frightening, is the only path that allows two hearts to truly know one another. There was a time when they believed protecting themselves meant keeping their deepest emotions locked away. Now they understand that protecting the heart does not mean hiding it. It means sharing it with sincerity, accepting that the outcome cannot always be controlled. Listen carefully, because this may be the most important realization of all. Whether your soulmate speaks those long-hidden words tomorrow or much later, your future is no longer suspended by someone else's decision. Your happiness is no longer waiting for another person's courage to begin. You have already stepped into a life where your value exists independently of anyone else's approval. That is not the end of love. It is the strongest foundation love can ever have. Imagine one final evening. The sun has disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving behind soft colors that slowly fade into a sky filled with stars. The world is unusually still. The noise of the day has settled, and only a gentle breeze moves through the trees. In that peaceful silence, both of you are no longer running from your own hearts. There is no need to pretend, no need to rewrite the past, and no need to carry old fears into tomorrow. There is only the quiet understanding that every experience, every delay, every unanswered question, and every moment of growth has shaped you into someone capable of giving and receiving love with greater wisdom than before. Perhaps your paths will meet again through an unexpected message, a familiar smile, or a conversation that begins with honesty instead of hesitation. Perhaps life will lead each of you toward different destinations while leaving gratitude where longing once lived. Whatever unfolds, it does not erase the meaning of what you have shared or what you have learned. Some people enter our lives to stay forever, while others leave behind lessons that become part of us forever. Both kinds of connections can change a life in beautiful ways. Stay with this final thought. The greatest truth hidden for so long was never simply inside your soulmate's heart. It was also inside yours. It was the quiet realization that you have always been worthy of honesty, kindness, respect, and genuine love. No amount of waiting could increase that worth, and no disappointment could ever diminish it. Once you truly understand that, fear begins to loosen its grip. You stop chasing what is uncertain and start welcoming what is real. Your heart becomes a place of calm instead of constant questions. That calm is where lasting love has the best chance to grow. As this story comes to an end, carry forward not the weight of what remained unsaid, but the hope of everything that can still be spoken with courage. Carry forward the peace that comes from forgiving yourself for the moments you doubted your own worth. Carry forward the confidence that your future does not depend on perfect timing but on living each day with an open heart and a steady spirit. The next chapter of your life has not been written yet, and that is something beautiful, because it means hope is still alive. It means new conversations are still possible, new beginnings can still appear in unexpected places, and healing can continue long after today. Whatever tomorrow brings, walk toward it knowing that the strongest love is never built on fear, but on truth, compassion, trust, and the quiet courage to be fully seen. And if there is one thought to carry with you after these final words, let it be this: the moment you chose to believe that your heart deserved peace was the moment your brightest future quietly began.